This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes, creators of the world's best repair manuals. Fix your car or truck the right way with our accurate and reliable information at your side. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Apply the handbrake. Chock the rear wheels to prevent the vehicle from rolling. Pry off the wheel trim caps. Loosen the front wheel lug nuts. Then raise the front of the car and support it on jack stands. Remove the appropriate front wheel. Use a punch or small chisel to unstake the drive axle hub nut from the slot in the drive axle before attempting to unscrew the nut. Unscrew the nut. To prevent the hub from turning, have an assistant apply the brakes firmly or insert a punch into one of the cooling vanes in the brake disc and let it rest against the brake caliper. Alternatively, a long pry bar can be braced across two of the wheel studs and rested on the ground. Discard the drive axle hub nut. A new one must be used when installing. Remove the engine lower splash shield where necessary. Detach the control arm from the hub assembly by first removing the lock pin from the ball joint castle nut. Then unscrew the nut a few turns, but don't remove it. Using a ball joint separator, separate the control arm ball joint from the hub. Remove the castle nut. Then fully detach the control arm from the hub assembly. Discard the castle nut. A new one must be used when installing. Push the drive axle out of the hub while pulling outwards on the hub assembly. If the drive axle spleens are frozen, free them by tapping the end of the drive axle with a soft-faced hammer or a hammer and brass punch. Or alternatively, use a puller to push the drive axle from the hub. Place a drain pan underneath the transaxle to catch any lubricant that may spill out when the drive axle is removed. For the left-handed drive axle, use a pry bar to carefully pry the inner CV joint out of the transaxle, then remove the drive axle. For the right-hand drive axle, use a long punch and hammer to release the right drive axle inner CV joint from the intermediate shaft. Withdraw the drive axle. Check the oil seal on the transaxle case to ensure it's not damaged. If it shows any signs of damage, replace it. If you're reusing the old or overhauled drive axle, make sure that the new retaining clip is installed on the inner end, or the intermediate shaft where applicable, before installing. Apply a little oil to the transaxle case oil seal and drive axle spleens. Bring the drive axle into position in the fender well. Then insert the CV joint spleens into the transaxle or intermediate shaft. Be careful not to damage the oil seal. To ease insertion and seating of the retaining ring, position the gap in the ring at the bottom. Push the drive axle in sharply to seat the retaining ring on the inner CV joint into its groove in the transaxle or intermediate shaft. Clean the spleens on the outer end of the drive axle and the hub, then apply an anti-seize compound to the spleens. Insert the outer end of the drive axle spleens fully into the hub. Then reconnect the control arm ball joint stud to the hub. Install a new castle nut onto the ball joint stud. Install a new drive axle hub nut to the outer joint. Rotate the nut with a socket and ratchet as necessary to fully seat the drive axle outer joint spleens into the hub. Tighten the new castle nut on the ball joint stud to the specified torque setting. Install a new locking pin on the castle nut. In the event the locking pin hole does not align, tighten the nut a little more until the holes line up. Never loosen the nut to align the castellations. Tighten the drive axle hub nut to the specified torque setting. A punch can be inserted into a brake disc cooling vane and rested against the brake caliper when tightening the drive axle nut. Stake the collar of the nut into the groove in the drive axle. Once tightened, install the front wheel and lug nuts. Lower the car to the ground and tighten the wheel lug nuts to the specified torque setting. Install the wheel trim caps, applying firm pressure to secure them in place.